Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years' experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom. Parenting coordinators. You may have heard it being bandied around if you're currently in custody negotiation or at mediation. So today we're going to be talking about parenting coordinators and what it helps with and what it does and what Mum's opinion of it is for co-parenting if you have children together. Welcome, Mum.
Hello, Laura. Hello, everyone.
Now, this episode, I think it's something that hasn't been touched on by us
No,
much
I
at
don't think we've
all.
ever mentioned it.
But it is a thing that's out there, and you want to basically warn people of the pitfalls of parenting coordinators.
I think they're a bad idea.
Well, there you go. That's the end of the episode. Full stop. No. So Mum's opinion is parenting coordinators are probably a bad idea, but we're going to talk about what they are.
Yeah, because you might come against someone proposing it.
Might be in an application against you or something that they want in mediation. And it sounds okay, but let's talk about it first, Mum. So what is a parenting coordinator?
Well, it's a person who helps the parents make decisions for the kids on an ongoing basis after court has finished or instead of court, and decides things like the times for changeover and stuff, locations of changeover, what sports the kids can and can't go to. They have a very broad brief.
Isn't that what the judge would do?
Well, the judge can't see into the future, so they expect parents to go off into the future and try to co-parent. But what happens is, and this is just my opinion, but I've been around a bit.
Couple of years.
My opinion is that it's where the parents are so bad at communicating with each other that a third person has to be brought in to referee between them for the benefit of the child. I think there should not be a co-parenting order, that there should be sole parental responsibility to one party to ease the stress on the kids.
Right.
The parenting coordinators deal with the children and the parents and are a way of, I think, the judges abdicating responsibility and the parents abdicating responsibility to someone they don't even know to make decisions about child raising. It's weird.
Okay. Well, I was just asking you what parenting coordinating is. So basically what you're saying is it is a person. Have they got qualifications?
Yes, sometimes, usually social workers or something, and they do a little
so they're kind
parenting
of like a
coordinator course.
Mediator?
Maybe.
And so if something crops up, you've got orders, and something crops up that the orders don't cover, you might bring that to the parenting coordinator.
And they make a decision.
And they make a decision, not you guys.
That's right. They're not judges.
Right.
And they're not any sort of judicial officers. So I don't see how they can make these decisions. But what happens is if a court makes an order that the parents have to go to see a parenting coordinator, generally the order is something like, and they continue to attend at the parenting coordinator until such time as the parenting coordinator says that it's no longer necessary.
Oh, no.
And then they say who has to pay for it.
Oh, no.
And then they've basically written those parenting coordinators a blank check.
So it's not
going
free.
Forward. No,
it costs money.
It's never free.
And basically that parenting coordinator could just, I'm sure there are good people out there that are parenting coordinators, but they could just decide, I'm just going to keep these guys coming along because I need to pay the bills this week.
Yeah.
And you are basically
till the kids are 18.
Have no idea how much money you're going to spend on parenting coordinators, and you can't really budget for it.
It's like a blank check.
Okay, so that's a little scary.
Yep.
So, Mum, so that's what a parenting coordinator does. Do you know, like, do they sit in a room with each other, or they just kind of ring each other?
They'll ring a bit, and there'll be meetings usually, and they do meet with the kids, I think, too.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's almost
It sounds like more court.
I was going to say, it's like court never ends.
Mediation, court, family reports. It just sounds like an extension.
And they can be rung out of hours. They ring the parents out of hours. There's this, and whenever there's an argument between the parents, they both run to the coordinator. I have a problem with it.
So in a way, couldn't it be a good thing if you absolutely are terrified of your ex, or your ex is manipulative and controlling? Wouldn't it be good to have a parenting coordinator to do the talking to them so you don't have to?
Well, they've also got the parenting coordinator to harass you if they want to.
Oh, true.
Too. And I do think that if a parenting coordinator is needed, then the parents are never going to improve.
Yeah.
And if they're never going to improve, why not bite the bullet early and put a situation in place where the child has two parents who are making decisions for him or her, and eventually those parents may even learn to work together, but not while they've got someone to run to and who can, who can referee. And if the coordinators, I mean, they may seem like they're taking sides. Like if you're a person and your requests are unreasonable, you might get grumpy with that coordinator who doesn't follow your plan. Similarly, if you're someone trying to control the other person, you might not like it if the coordinator doesn't do what you think should be done.
Right.
And so I think it's just a third party to fight with.
So it's relatively a new concept.
It seems to be in America. There's I was reading there in 2013, I think Pennsylvania banned them.
But in Australia, it's
pretty
really new.
It's been around for a few years, and it's really failing to launch, in my view.
Okay.
I don't know how many are being appointed down in Melbourne and Sydney, but almost none that I'm hearing, and I warn my clients against them.
Okay. So, if your ex is manipulative and controlling, there's a likelihood
just another avenue
that
for
they're
them.
just trying to continue the discussion with you. And didn't you say it all the time, the point of a court order or a consent order is it puts a line in the sand and it detaches you from
having
your ex.
to deal. That's right.
And I know co-parenting is very important for children, but if there needs to be a third party in that co-parenting relationship, it's not co-parenting.
No,
is it?
it's not, and it's it introduces yet more conflict into the thing. And there is a chance that the coordinator will make a choice that neither parent agrees with. So,
oh gosh, really?
Yes.
Can they do that? So they can say, you're saying, I'd really like to pick them up at 9 a.m. on this day because we've got a special event, and your ex is saying, no, I don't want to I'm not doing that. And then, so the parenting coordinator can say, okay, well, you can pick them up on Friday instead of Tuesday.
That's the obvious thing, because otherwise the parenting coordinator has to agree with one or other of you, which also tells the other parent your views aren't valid. That's what I think. I think the parents would have been better to go, well, all right then, sigh, roll, eye rolls, let's make it 8:30. At least they're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that the prospect of being able to abdicate all of that responsibility to a parenting coordinator is just... It just means it's never going to end. You'll never learn to get along and try to compromise.
Can you get in trouble if you're ordered to go to a parenting coordinator and you don't?
Yep.
Okay, so you have to be really careful that either one, a judge doesn't order it, or two, you don't consent to it. You don't consent to it. Can you trial a parenting coordinator before consenting?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it, because once you start going down that path,
then the judge will say, well, you're already doing
you've already been there. I think I've heard judges say, well, what's the point of a parenting coordinator if they can't agree?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty well the feeling, at least in some parts of Australia.
So what you're saying is basically that's your view, not anybody else's. We're just letting you guys know.
No, it's just my opinion.
But you've been around the traps, and you reckon most people eventually can co-parent.
I didn't.
No, but if people can't co-parent,
they shouldn't be shared parental responsibility.
Forced to co-parent through a parenting coordinator.
That's right.
Just should be a choice between.
I agree. Absolutely agree.
Okay.
Now, there are people who disagree with me in the profession, but, I just absolutely can't see the point of them, and I'm worried about where we'll be heading if they get some traction. But I'm happy to see they don't get much traction.
You've mentioned post-separation abuse, before when parenting coordinator has been mentioned, I think, by one of our members, and you were concerned that it's just a new avenue.
Yep. To make you have to think about them every day or deal with them. And you're ordered to deal with them, so you can't even say, you know what, I'm taking time out from this because this is all too stressful. No, if the coordinator, they have tremendous power.
Wow.
Appointed by the court forever, well, with no end date. you can't sack them. Neither of you can individually sack the parenting coordinator. And the only person that can finish it is the parenting coordinator, or the two of you if you agree and do it by consent order. So I just think it's an unnecessary element. I'd rather see the parents go to mediation if they can't agree on something.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do anyway? Aren't you supposed to go to mediation if things aren't working? Isn't that the point of mediation?
Yes.
So
well, I know
just
that
kind of like sidestepping.
People call parenting coordinator a form of alternative dispute resolution, but I don't think it is.
No, because a mediator doesn't make the decision in the end.
Yeah.
So this person becomes basically like a mini judge, but without the qualifications. Is there any murmurs of bias, parenting coordinators? Like, is it risk? Like, are there parenting coordinators out there that people know, oh, that's a parenting coordinator that is...
I sincerely hope not. But, you wonder...
so you got to be careful.
You do have to be careful.
Because I guess in a way, depending what judge you get sometimes depends the outcome of your case. Because even though they're following the court orders, they have subtle differences.
They're trained.
Yes.
They're trained to be impartial. They're elevated by their peers and they are... they have no vested interest. The difference between a judge and a parenting coordinator is the judge gets paid each day, even after your case is finished, and it doesn't matter, whereas a parenting coordinator only continues to be paid by court order until the parenting coordinator stops the intervention. That's the big risk.
And your ex could just decide that they're really upset about some small issue that they actually aren't upset about. I mean, I know you're not recommending it, but you can see it as a solution to ongoing fighting, but in a way it keeps the fight going. If you take the oxygen out, you draw a line, you go, we've got our orders, there's the line in the sand, it's over. Now let's just parent.
Yep.
But if you keep the oxygen going and you keep the fight going, and you have talked about this before, you called it, when people finish court, they have like this litigation neurosis.
Litigation neurosis. And some people are quite addicted to the fight.
Yes.
But if, like any of our listeners who've had a family report, for instance, if they're going through court, family report, sometimes your ex acts a different way because they are posturing to influence or to impress somebody or to prove a point. They become all sort of artificial and stiff and lecture you. Well, when you've got a parenting coordinator, that can keep going for ages because they can be point scoring and it's just exhausting.
And still collecting evidence to show to the parenting coordinator instead of collecting evidence. So you would have to keep on your toes with the parenting
the whole time.
If you end up with a parenting coordinator, you're going to have to keep documenting.
Yes.
And keep protecting
and being
yourself.
Careful with what you say.
Which you should anyway, but you wouldn't need to keep documenting stuff.
Well, and I think they still keep touch with the children as well.
Right.
Because
the poor kids, they don't want to be put in the middle of it.
I know. So yes, it's an unexplored area. It's not part of our legislation.
Yes.
At the moment, and I hope it never is.
So that's a firm no for parenting.
That's a hard no from Mum.
We'd be interested to hear your opinion. I'm sure there's some people out there that do maybe think that parenting coordination is good, but like Mum says, you're basically writing a blank check and the rest of your child's lives to that parenting coordinator. And if something happened to your kid where they then depend on you for the rest of their lives, you could still be seeing that parenting coordinator when they're like 25.
Can I read you what someone says in America?
Yes.
The parenting coordination, now this is a website called the Lizzie Library, Liz Notes, Florida Family Law Appeals, Palm Beach Divorce Lawyer, Lisa
Florida,
Marie.
oh my gosh.
Florida, okay. and she says, the parenting coordination concept is an infection that causes all of the problems that custody evaluations bring into the family court system and then some. And then she said, what qualifies a third-party stranger parenting coordinator to make daily family law decisions for other people? Nothing. And then they said, what does success look like? What constitutes success at parenting coordination, says Lizzie. Who knows? To the parenting coordinator, perhaps getting a nice fee. She goes on to talk about their judges and indicating that maybe it was a way for the judge to just get it off his list.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's America has had it for a while, and they're starting, like I said, to
ban it.
Yeah.
So you've got to say, as in all of these things, if you're negotiating, you're in mediation, you have a say. Do your own research. Think about how it would work. Think about the type of personality your ex is, your divorce personality. So, Mum, let's talk about the pitfalls.
Okay.
So we've got amicable. Yeah. You don't need a parenting coordinator for amicable.
No,
so you wouldn't be agreeing to it.
No.
And you'd be saying, we don't need one because we are already co-parenting successfully.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a good argument.
So just don't go there.
Don't go there.
Okay. Number 2, you've got avoidant. Do you need a parenting coordinator for avoidant? What are the pitfalls?
They might not answer the parenting coordinator.
So
there's no point.
And if they're avoidant, they're probably not going to care what you do with the
They're not arguing
anyway.
You'll probably be able to do most of which will just keep them informed. They don't want to be involved in the decision. That would be a travesty to have a parenting coordinator in that situation.
Okay, so no amicable, no avoidant. High conflict. Like, I can see the rationale. Sure, they're high conflict, so we should get them a parenting coordinator. You know, you could find us on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. We're there waiting for you right now. If you want to get more out of the Divorce Course, all you have to do is go to the Divorce Course podcast at Facebook or TikTok, or the Divorce Course on Instagram. There we share bite-sized pieces of information and bite-sized inspiration and motivation to help you through this difficult time. Come and join our community and let us know you've joined. We'd love to see you there. What does the parenting coordinator do to stop the high conflict? They don't. The conflict will just continue. They just get inside.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right.
There's no stopping the conflict.
No. It probably, in my view, makes it worse because it continues that posturing and position taking and fault finding.
Point scoring
that goes on when a matter's going through the court process. And we often say to people, you know, once the spotlight of the court is off you both, probably everyone's behaviour will settle down to be more normal. But at the moment, while there's someone to watch and to report on and judge whether you're right or wrong, you're scared to put a foot wrong. Everything, you're carefully watching your words. You can't risk not answering something.
Yeah.
So you are still on tenterhooks.
You're like a cat on a hot tin roof.
That's right. And I imagine a parenting coordinator would be a very bad one to get offside, because if someone brought an application back to the court and the parenting coordinator said, well, I found X to be uncooperative.
Yeah, the judge is going to listen. Oh, goodness. So really, when it comes to high conflict, there's nothing they can really do but just be part of the conflict.
I wouldn't want to be a parenting coordinator.
And there is a lot of research being done recently, Mum, hasn't there, about the effects on children when parents are going through the conflict of divorce and in the court system. Yeah. Do you think maybe that damaging effect would then continue? Because it gets better. Once court is over, it gets better. That's why court's trying to speed it up. Yeah. But if you have a parenting coordinator and that continues on... Well,
you've got a high conflict person on the other side. They just keep going. That's not court over. This is just now round 2.
A different way location
of scoring a point and hurting.
Yeah.
I think that kids do suffer dramatically through court. And it's not... the studies say it's not the actual separation that causes the most damage, although it's hurtful for children. It's the conflict afterwards that causes the devastation in children.
Yeah.
So, you know, and anything that fosters more conflict is not going to work. I know parenting coordinators it sounds like a good idea. Was just the idea of the name, and it sounds very passive.
But in the hands of,
that's true, but also the costs of. But in the hands of a high conflict person on the other side, or you might both be high conflict, in which case you're both still slugging it out for the benefit of the audience, which is no longer the judge, but now it's the parenting coordinator, and you're paying handsomely for that benefit. It's just I think it's toxic.
Okay. All right. And then you've got your manipulative and controlling.
And boy, oh boy, that's a tricky one. Like if you've got one of those ex-partners, manipulative and controlling.
Narcissistic.
Yep. You know that up until they actually got in the witness box, they were probably convincing all and sundry that they were good people. They're so clever at concealing their real motives. They make you look bad. They make themselves look good. And it's not until their comeuppance, which is usually when they're in the witness box, that the lies come out and the actual truth is revealed. So they're very good at that kind of elevator pitch that makes them look good. Now, the thing with the parenting coordinator is, presuming they've got a number of clients, they're not doing a deep dive anymore into motives, and they're not trained to, understand psychopathies or psychological personalities, usually. So they may be sucked in by someone like that who can manipulate and control them to see you in a bad light, and then you're constantly
and there's no
fighting
witness,
two
there's no
against
trial.
one. No,
there's never a chance to prove it, so then you're stuck.
And
with
you
that.
don't get a chance to reject the parenting coordinator's opinions. Usually the orders say that you will follow their opinions. It makes them very powerful, more powerful than a judge in a way, because a judge, at least you can appeal.
That's really scary. So, okay. All right. So basically what you're saying is parenting coordinator, bad idea.
I think so.
What are your other options? So let's think about it. People are like, well, what happens if we get our orders and something crops up and we really can't agree? What do you tell your clients to do if they come back to you, say, 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, look, we've had this issue prop up, we're fighting black and blue over it. What do you tell them they need to do?
Well, I probably think I would do something like the court has done when it applies ricin-aspirin. It says, no, you've got an agreement. It's sorted out amongst yourselves.
Right.
You've got to work it out amongst yourselves. When the court refuses to have a matter come back before it within a short period of time because they say it's something major has to have changed, and that's another reason why you've got your parenting coordinator, if they've been ordered and you try to change it, the court's going to go, well, no.
Oh, so
you've already had an order.
Go back and try and change it.
And they're thinking of making the refusal of changing orders too quickly unless something's major's changed. The ricin-aspirin principle, they're talking about making that law, as in the amendment to the Family Law Act, rather than a case law. So the judges basically say, here are your orders. I don't think, obviously someone's lost, someone's won. If you don't like them, I suggest you go and attend some parenting orders, post-separation, post-orders programs, and learn how to like them or lump them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of intense education about how to work with the orders, because the judge, having looked at all of the factors, has decided this is the best for your children.
Or you have together decided this is the best and done consent orders.
Yes, maybe, Yeah. And if you can't work them out, well, they don't say, well, we need to change the orders. They say you two need to go out and have some more training about how to resolve your disputes.
Right.
And I think a parenting coordinator in the middle means you never have to do that hard work.
You never have to bother about how do I communicate with my ex.
Yes, that's right.
And I think that is a really, when it comes to co-parenting or parallel parenting, as some people call
whatever it is,
you've got to learn a way. It's like, like when you have a neurodiverse issue like ADHD, for example, and you know for a fact that you're really bad with time and you forget things. So you come up with ways to manage being bad with time, and you come up with ways to not forget things, so that in the future you don't say, oh, I'm sorry, I've got ADHD. You go, oh, okay, I've figured out a way to manage that, like, many people have done now. So it's the same with, oh, we've got a really bad co-parenting relationship. You don't just use that as an excuse to not come up with anything. You're going to have to come up with ways, and everybody has different ways.
It's life.
You just have to figure it out.
If you think about it as the business of parenting, after the emotion's out and the relationship's over, you pair of you are in the business of parenting your children.
Right.
If you were business partners in an enterprise and you weren't getting along, who imagines they'd bring in someone who could make the decisions for them?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. You would never get some random to come into a business and decide the decision based on the two opposing opinions of a business partner.
And imagine if that person came in and said, "Now I'm here forever. You have to pay me, and
I can make whatever decision
I'll make
I want.
decisions like you tell me what you want, and you tell me what you want, and I'll tell you what you get."
Oh.
That's the
You'd have to really trust the integrity of the people. Really trust the integrity. And, I think because it is new in Australia, there are a lot of, I don't know what the regulations are. They're only just starting to ask for family report writers to be approved and regulated.
Yes, and they're just
recently.
starting to ask contact centres to be reviewed. Like we're still kind of catching up with things.
But they're probably not going to be doing that for parenting coordinators for a fair while. If it's taken them that long for contact centres and family report writers to be regulated, you don't want to be going the wild, wild west.
No, I think you're right. That we should always be open to new ideas.
Yeah, sure.
But this is my considered opinion about this, and I just caution people to be careful.
You're just very concerned that people are signing a blank check and all decisions about their children away to a stranger, which is what we caution against people about going to court. Why we say try mediation. You don't want to end up in court because the judge will make the decision. Yeah. This is the same issue
only probably on smaller basis, smaller issues.
And more regular.
Maybe more regular, Okay. And they can call you in for this. I just think there's something really silly about it and unnatural about it for the sake of your children.
But it is this weird word that gets bandied around, and I think it catches people by surprise, which is why we wanted to do the episode.
Yes,
And look, I know this is a big doom and gloom one. Please feel free to go listen to one that isn't. Find another podcast episode on parenting coordinators, why it's a good idea, and make your own decision. We're not telling you not to do it. We're saying this is mum's opinion. This is just an educational podcast.
Yeah, and it's just something to be aware of.
You need to be
warned
aware.
about.
And especially if you go to mediation and it is the first time you've heard of it, you're going to go, well, parenting coordinator sounds like a great idea.
Sounds nice,
But if you haven't done the research, you might get yourself in a bit of a hole.
So that's why I wanted to warn people.
Yes, and please don't, how many people are going to get mad at us, Mum?
Oh, a few.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please don't get mad at us because it's just an opinion.
It's my view. I'm entitled to have it.
Yay. But, and we are all for resolving issues.
I'm for kids.
And for kids and co-parenting if you can, parallel parenting if you can't, mediation if you get stuck. But there are many other options you can take that aren't as costly and as risky, I would say, as parenting coordinators.
I think so. And I think that it's unfruitful and unproductive because the parents never learn anything.
Yeah.
If there's a coordinator in the middle.
And then I guess that will flow on to the children. If their children see their parents can't negotiate or learn mediative skills, I guess they're never going to be able to teach their kids.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to teach your kid. So I guess look inwards.
And you won't grow.
And and go, this is going to be a bit tricky, but we're through court.
Go through your POP course, post orders parenting course. They're amazing.
Yeah, the POP courses are really good. They get you to come along if you don't do it by,
Zoom or online.
You go in, you sit down, you're usually in a group with other people.
Yes.
Relationships Australia does them. They talk you through the effects that disagreements have on the kids. So they put the guilt right into you right at the start, which is good because I think some people don't think about it. And then they talk you through, okay, this is what your orders are. This is what orders mean. This is how you can follow them. These are some steps you can take. And then they show you, they showed us a video of parents doing handover.
Yes.
And the things that kids notice that you might not think kids don't notice.
Oh, really?
And the effect it has on them. So that was really helpful. I think it was very educational. And then some one-on-one sessions where they talk you through whatever issues you've got, which is kind of like a parenting coordinator.
Yeah.
You're not doing it with your ex, but you are doing it with a whole bunch of other people sometimes in some of the sessions, which really helped because it did help you to see other people's points of views.
Yes.
And everybody's situation was different. Every single person in that circle that I was there for had, a different reason that they were doing the POP course and a different divorce type and different amounts of kids, but everybody had the best interest of the kids at heart. And once they were educated on what is the best for their children, I think there was a lot of change that happened and a lot of guilt in a lot of parents of the stuff that they didn't realise they were doing.
Yeah.
But I think that, and that's something courts order all the time, is probably a good first step.
Do you know, I was in court a couple of weeks ago, and as the parties had reached a consent order in the time, and the registrar said to the
which is a mini judge,
mini judge, judicial registrar said to them, and it was so right. He said, "You are the only two people who really know your kids and who really love your kids the way a parent can. And so this is great that you've been able to work it out together." And I think we should keep that in mind and keep the people who have the kids, who understand their kids and who love their children, let them make the decisions for the kids and let them learn to get along.
Yeah, because I guess as a teacher, when I used to be a teacher, I loved my kids. I loved all the kids that I taught, but I know the difference between the love I had for those kids and the love I have for my own kids. And, you know, you think a lot harder about the decisions you make for your own children than you do for anybody else's, because you really care about them more than anybody else in the world.
Well, you just know them better than any other child.
Yeah.
You know, you've known them from the
And you know what the right thing is to do.
Yep.
Yeah. So, whoa, Mum, that was a huge, big stinker episode of ranting.
I had to get it out.
But look, I think even if you only listen to the first 20 minutes of this, at least you get the message across. That's Mum's opinion.
Yes.
Okay. And to all the parenting coordinators out there that are listening to this, I'm sure you're lovely people.
And very brave.
And you are most welcome to write to us and give us a right of reply. And maybe we will do a bonus episode that includes your right of reply.
Okay. I'm
You're open to it?
I'm certainly open to being convinced.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Mum, for your time and your valuable opinions.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.